provides detailed instructions on editing the geometry of a drawing, including modifying entities, creating hatches, adjusting attributes, working with contours, creating parametric designs, inserting variables, mirroring geometry, dimensioning, and adding text in a CAD software interface. It emphasizes associativity and parameterization features to ensure geometric accuracy and flexibility in the design process. Additionally, it explains how to adjust settings, manipulate dimensions, and customize text appearance to improve the overall layout of the drawing. Let's edit the geometry of the drawing interface Part 1 video. To edit any entity, there are 3 options. Double-click on the entity in the graphics area. Double-click on the entity in the command list. Or if it is an associative dimension, press the Control key and click on the desired dimension. Modifying the radii to 12 and 5. Modifying the distance between circles. And editing others' dimensions. See what the final design will look like. We will create hatches on the inside of the part to indicate that the drawing represents a section. We have to modify the attribute fill for the lines that delimit the contour externally and internally. The simplest way is through selection by area. Creating a selection area and using the geometry option. We don't want to select the dimensions. After selection, open the quick menu and activate the Edit Attribute option, changing to Standard Hatch Outline Pattern 0. See what happens. The errors occurred because some lines that were selected cannot have the hatching attribute, such as center lines. Let's visualize the lines that have hatch attributes. Menu Settings option, Fill options, Hatching. After selecting by area, we could deselect the center lines so that they do not receive the fill attribute. But let's correct it now by selecting the center lines individually. And modifying them to have no hatching attribute. Now the filling is correct. Let's do the same operation using contour selection. Canceling the last selection operations by area and attributes. In the list of commands, cancel the attribute operation. And if necessary, we use the Ctrl+C key for undo. Activating the contour function. This option is part of Geometry's submenu block. In the closed contour, when there are vertices with more than one line, the user must identify which line to continue the contour. With the Auto-Close Contour option, you identify the line inside the contour and the function searches for the contour automatically. The Check Intersection option looks for lines that intersect the contour, not just at lines' endpoints. In our case, the contour lines are connected at the endpoints. Do not select this option. Let's modify the contour attribute. Identify one of the lines. See the result. Let's select the 2 circles individually. With the right mouse button, open the quick menu. Edit Attribute command. And set Same Pattern. See the result. The inner contour is still missing. Repeating the operation by contour. As the construction is associative, if the dimensions are edited, the filling will also be modified. Modifying the distance between circles. See the result. This property of the system to correctly maintain geometry relations is called associativity. To complete the detailing, define a recess or groove on the upper tangent line. This type of construction is normally done before filling. But let's do it at this point and then correct the filling. Creating a perpendicular line at the midpoint of the tangent line. Activating the simple straight line function by midpoint and positioning at the midpoint of the tangent line. For the final point, click on the perpendicular option to create a perpendicular line. Identify same line as a reference for the perpendicular and a length of 5. Creating offset for both sides. For the depth of the groove, create a tangent line offset of 1.3. Partial erasing the center line. Selecting the lines in sequence. And use the command join. The system indicates an error when filling out hatches. Some lines are missing the filling attribute. Select these lines individually and modify the filling attribute. At this point, we can edit the slot offset to 1, using Control key plus dimension selection. Another important feature of the product is the so-called parameterization. You can insert variables, parametric expressions, logical conditions, etc. that control a construction. The drawing is restored according to the defined parametric conditions. Let's insert a small parameterization. Edit the value between the centers of the circles by inserting a variable named L. When we indicate the variable, the system asks us to confirm if we want to create a variable. A new variable list tab is shown. Modify the dimensions view type to indicate any variables defined in the dimension associated with the geometry. Let's associate one of the circles with the radius with an expression associated with the variable L, editing the radius to an expression 0.15 from L. To edit L, simply click on the variable position in the variable list. Creating a mirroring of the geometry. With the right mouse button on the list of variables, open a quick menu and create a new variable h with a value of 70. Create an offset line with the variable h from the center line. Modifying the attribute for center line. See that the list of variables is being displayed in the alphabetical order of their names. Let's view it in chronological order. Chronological order is important because we can only redefine an expression that contains another variable defined chronologically before it. Edit the variable h using the variable L. The expression must always be defined in parentheses. Creating a vertical mirror with centerline positioning. Selecting by area and vertical mirroring. Joining the two sections by tangent lines. If variable L is modified, the association and parameterization of the system resolves the geometry. Quoting the vertical distance between the center lines. A dedicated button configures the font height of the active group dimensions. Note that the current value is 3.5. Changing to a value of 3, all dimensions will be changed. Let's dimension the bottom geometry using the multiple dimension function. The auto-info or object snap function captures the desired points. Let's just leave the center osnap activated. If necessary, a different osnap or info function can be accessed with the quick menu. For example, in the first point, we want the line endpoint. Activate the quick menu and select endpoint osnap. Pressing the Enter key, finish entering the points. There are several configuration options in the Properties box for this dimension. Test the available options. To reposition the dimensions, double-click on one of the dimensions. Using a button, we access a menu with general settings for the active group. In the Dimensions Settings option, several tabs are available with parameters that control the views of the dimensions of the active group. For example, modifying to position dimension texts according to ANSI standards. Here you can save this configuration to be valid for new drawings. You can test the several possible visualization variants and dimension settings. See the result. All dimension texts will be shown in the according this standard. Let's enter some text. If the text scale is set to 0, the height of the text will be equal to the scale defined for the general dimension scale. See that in addition to the standard type option. And defining text, drawing interface part 2. There are 2 other types of text definitions. Table text, which is a text that contains a text type parametric variable. It is explained in the video about parameterization. The other option is the question type, which is a text in which a question is defined to be answered by the user when inserting formats or parametric parts. It is also explained in the video about creating sheets and formats. Define the positioning of the text by the midpoint. Let's modify the auto osnap to identify other points. Position it on the center line.